morning headlines before you step out, midday updates while you work, evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In a nation defined by diversity and potential, the question remains, what kind of leadership will guide Nigeria into the future? Across government, business, media, and civil society, one principle has emerged as non-negotiable: ethical leadership. Globally, leaders like Germany's Angela Merkel and New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern demonstrate that integrity and empathy are more than virtues. They are instruments of trust and stability. Merkel's pragmatic management of economic crisis and Ardern's compassionate yet decisive responses to national emergencies highlight the value of principled governance. Nigeria's lesson is clear: citizens, fellow leaders who are consistent, transparent, and accountable. In the private sector, ethical leadership drives success. Companies like Patagonia, with its environmental stewardship, and Microsoft committed to data privacy, prove that ethics and integrity can coexist. Nigerian businesses can learn from these models, prioritizing transparency, fair employee treatment, and community engagement to strengthen both the economy and public confidence. Religious and civic institutions also prove enormous influence. In Sweden, faith-based organizations collaborate with governments in social welfare while respecting secular governance. In Nigeria, religious leaders can guide communities through ethical engagement, promoting peace, civic responsibility, and financial transparency. The media serves as the nation's ethical compass. In Watergate in the United States, to anti-corruption investigations in South Korea, responsible journalism exposes abuse of power and strengthens accountability. Nigerian media, by upholding truth and resisting political pressures, can elevate public discourse and encourage ethical governance. Youth and civil society movements around the world illustrate the power of principled activism. Evidence-based campaigns in Kenya, climate initiative in Europe, and grassroots civic actions globally show that organized engagement reinforces accountability. In Nigeria, young people and NGOs can champion ethical leadership through advocacy, civic education, and constructive participation. The path forward is practical and systemic: transparent public finance, digitized services, whistleblower protections, merit-based appointments, and civic education are all critical. Ethical leadership must be embedded in institutions, daily operations, and individual conduct. When leaders govern with integrity, businesses act responsibly, institutions foster unity, and citizens uphold civic duty, Nigeria's potential becomes tangible. Ethical leadership is not just a moral ideal, it is a strategic roadmap to progress, cohesion, and sustainable development.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold, You don't just need news. You need clarity. You need speed. You need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Million thanks for joining us this morning on Aneke TV's Business Landscape and Update. All you investors and intending investors, this the investment parlor for you, and join us this morning on our business update. I'm Uche Osai. And now looking at the Nigerian business landscape as of yesterday, March 3rd, 2026, the Nigerian business landscape is defined by major shakeups in the economic theme, shifting dynamics in the energy sector, and a continued cooling of the foreign exchange market. And then when we look at this, we'll see that one of the major issues here is the major leadership overhaul by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He executed a significant reshuffle of his economic team, signaling a strategic pivot in fiscal management. Now, looking at this new finance leadership, we are informed that Taiwo Oyedele, the former chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, was nominated as the Minister of State for Finance. He replaced Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, yes, and then this cabinet redeployment of Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite has been moved to the Ministry of Budget and National Planning as Minister of State. This marks her third portfolio within the current administration. Yes, and then when we look at security appointments, the Nigerian Police Council, you understand, did ratify the appointment of the new IG of Police, this Inspector IGP Disu, yes, who will be, taking up totally those rares of affairs in terms of policing and security, and this being one of the factors that is shaping up the market. And then we'll take a look at currency and the market. You saw that the naira saw a slight breather after a week of gains, reflecting a balance between the healthy liquidity and rising corporate demand. And then moving over to look at the exchange rates, the naira opened at 1,368.28 kobo against the dollar. That's at the official market, official window. And it eventually settled around 1,370 naira 30 kobo. Then looking at the parallel market as well, which remained tightly converged, trading between 1,375 naira and 1,382 naira. Then another factor to look into here is the market is currently adjusting to the recent 50 basis point cut in the monetary policy rate, which now stands at 26.50%. Yeah, remember that we did tell you all this, and it's beginning to help to shape up the market as we speak. And yes, there was a major factor. And then another issue that shaped the business landscape as I yesterday equally is the foreign reserve. Yes, the foreign reserves, the net reserves are reportedly surged, to $34.8 billion, providing the Central Bank of Nigeria with a significant buffer to manage volatility. And then we'll take a look at the energy and industrial sector. You understand that the energy sector is faced, with both global pressure and domestic price adjustment. For example, when we take a look at Dangote refinery, reports indicate an increase in the petrol gantry price to 874 naira per liter amidst ongoing market fluctuations. And then when you take a look at the global oil prices, you will realize that the Brent crude rallied towards $81 per barrel due to heightened geopolitical tension in the Middle East, a double-edged sword for Nigeria that boasts revenue but threatens domestic fuel inflation. And then remember equally that we did cite the resolution around the OPL 245, and this has contributed to be one of the major significant factors shaping the business landscape as at yesterday. Yes, the long contested OPL 245 oil field, with the government splitting the field in a deal with Eni and Shell, sparking a surge in Shell's share prices as well. Then when we take a look at technology and regulation, you see that the AI and privacy issues are joined in shaping up the market. Nigeria, joined 60 global regulators in coordinated crackdown on AI-generated deepfakes, with Nigeria Data Protection Commission issuing near warnings on data privacy. Then when we look again at another factor is the space policy, where President Tinubu directed the immediate release of funds for maintenance of Nigerian space assets, emphasizing a 25-year roadmap for space development. Now, when we look at key takeaways from all these factors that is shaping the business landscape, you see that yesterday was a consolidation day. Yes, the government is doubling down on tax experts, leaderships like Oyedele to drive revenue while managing delicate balance between a stabilizing naira and a rising energy costs. Now it's time for us to take a look at the Nigerian Stock Exchange performance for yesterday, March 3rd, 2026. Yes, they tell you that the investors, it's time for you to grab your front seat and sit with us as we guide you along on how to either make new investments or take new positions or take profit. And this is where we'll give you a detailed update on the performance of the Nigerian stock markets. And looking at the Nigerian exchange, we can tell you that as of yesterday, it was bullish. Yes, it maintained a bullish momentum despite global geopolitical ripples. The All-Share Index AI rose by 0.57%, crossing the historic 196,000 point mark to close at 196,605.33. This performance was largely driven by strategic interest in the oil and gas and industrial sectors, as investors bet on higher crude revenues following Middle East tension. Then let's take a look at the market summary. When you look at the market capitalization, we can tell you that the capitalization rose to about 126.19 trillion naira. In number of these, the trade deals or the volume, traded at 820.7 million units, valued at for 3.2 billion naira. That tells you that the market breadth yesterday, narrowly negative, as we had 36 gainers versus 38 losers, indicating early focused on high cap heavyweights. Now, let's move a bit and look at the top 5 gainers as at yesterday. On the gainers list, we'll tell you is dominated by the insurance and consumer goods sector, with several stocks hitting the maximum daily limit. And starting from yesterday, we'll look at UAC of Nigeria, PSC. UAC traded as UAC, yesterday closed at 106 naira 70 kobo, making a positive 10% adjustment. They are followed by Sunu Assurance, which yesterday equally closed in the positive of a plus 10% adjustment, closing at 4 naira 84 kobo. And then looking at the NGS group, the NGS group yesterday closed at 150 naira, making a positive 9.97% positive adjustment. And when you look at Owando PLC yesterday is equally on the positive, making a 9.96 positive adjustment, closing at 50 naira 25 kobo. And here is an insurance stock, Sovereign Trust Insurance, closing at 2 naira 67 kobo, making a positive adjustment of 9.88%. Now we'll take a closer look at the losers. Yes, the top 5 losers. Profit taking was evident in the healthcare and industrial services sector, leading to significant pullback for some mid-cap stocks. And leading this pack is a pharmaceutical company facing healthcare, traded as Filsin. Yesterday closed at 81 naira, making a negative adjustment of 10%, seriously in the dip. And then we see MC Nichols PLC traded as MC Nichols, closing his book yesterday at 6 naira 87 kobo, equally in the dip of minus 9.96%. Another pharmaceutical stock yesterday, Mikio Industries, was equally in the dip of 9.95 negative adjustment, closing at 68 naira 30 kobo. Yeah, and you look at Deep Capital Management yesterday made a negative adjustment of 8.17%, closing at 6 naira 52 kobo. And that takes us to another interest in the happenings in the market. And we can tell you that Arede Holdings also had a standard day, gaining over 9% to close at 1,300 naira 40 kobo, reflecting the strong oil windfall sentiment currently lifting the Lagos bows. And then let's move faster into the Naira performance as at yesterday. We'll tell you that the Naira experienced a day of relative stability with minor fluctuation as it continues to find its value following the recent central bank policy adjustment. Now let's move over to the official market. Yes, in the official Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange market, the Naira saw a marginal depreciation due to increased corporate demand for month-end obligation, leading the Naira yesterday to open at 1,368 Naira 28 kobo against the dollar, closing at 1,379 Naira 30 kobo. But before we let you go, you should be confident knowing that the Naira during the intraday high, got as high as 1,405 Naira against the dollar before it closed at 1,379 Naira 30 kobo before retreating as liquidity improved in the afternoon section. Yes, and then when we take a look at the parallel market or the street market, as many people used to want to call it, some call it the black market. Yes, the street rate remained largely converged with official rate, which is a positive sign for the CBN's goal of eliminating arbitrage. Yes, the average rate yesterday was around 1,385 Naira against the dollar, marking a stable trend. The gap between the official and black market rates is currently sitting at less than 1%. Yes, significantly discouraging round tripping. Yeah, that's kudos to the Nigerian Central Bank. They've been working all hard to see that happen. Then looking at the Naira performance against other major currencies, you see that the Naira held its ground relatively well against the pound and euro, though both currencies remain expensive due to their own strengths in the global market. Now looking at the US dollar, we've given you that, and then when we look at against the British pound, we'll tell you that the Naira managed and held its own and closed at 1,841 Naira 60 kobo against the British pound, and that's a marginal gain. Then looking at it against the euro. Euro is another strong currency in the global market, but the Naira yesterday was able to get to 1,568 Naira 45 kobo, which is quite stable. Now let's take a look at the market drivers. Yes, we'll look at first of all the reserve boost. The announcement that net foreign reserve hit $34.8 billion acted as a psychological buffer, preventing a sharp sell-off. Yes, another factor here is liquidity. The CBN's consistent intervention through breed change, sales, and OMO bills has kept the market from drying up. Then looking at interest rates, the recent hike in the monetary policy rate, MPR continues to make Naira-dominated assets attractive to hot money. Yes, investors are scampering at this moment, yes, supporting the currency. So that's kudos to the Nigerian Central Bank and the other factors driving the investment. And we'll tell you that investors are taking position. You as well should equally take position. And then let's move on a bit and look at the performance of the Brent crude. Yes, the Brent crude performance as of yesterday, March 3rd, 2026. We'll tell you that the Brent crude experienced a volatile but strongly bullish session, which is characterized by a largely sharp rally as geopolitical tension in the Middle East reached a fever pitch. Now, moving forward, we'll look at the price movement, and yes, the Brent closing price settled around $80.63 per barrel, a significant jump of 3.72% from the previous day. Good. And moving forward, during the intraday peak, prices spiked as high as $82.80, the highest level seen since mid-2024. And now this will tell you marked the third consecutive day of gains, with prices having climbed nearly 13% since the start of the conflict over the previous weekend. Now let's take a look at the market drivers. This surge was almost entirely driven by supply side fears following an escalation in the Middle East that we told you. Remember the threats of Strait Hormuz. Yes, concerns peaked following reports that the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil checkpoint, faced transit disruption. Iran's warning to shipping traffic caused freight rates to soar and forced many tankers to reroute. Yes, and then when we look at infrastructural attacks, a report of strikes on regional energy infrastructures, including refineries operation in Saudi Arabia and production sites in northern Iraq, added a risk premium to every barrel, leading to why we saw that spike on pricing since 2024. And then output costs, Iraq faced an output reduction around 1.5 million barrels per day due to storage limits and export blockage caused by the hostilities. Now, another important factor to look at here is the impact on Nigeria. Yes, it's always quite important that we take a look at the impact on Nigeria. Why we have a higher Brent prices typically would boost Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve and the government revenue. I will tell you that that's a double-edged sword. Yes, it has a double-edged sword effect, and it was evident yesterday as Johnny Along will tell you. You see that revenue versus subsidy, that's the issue here. The rally immediately pressured domestic fuel prices, with Brent crossing $80 mark. The landing cost of petrol rose and complicating the government's effort to keep pump prices stable without increasing subsidy expenditure, which is already even gone. And then we saw a stock market lift on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You see that oil and gas heavyweights like Owando and Aradel saw massive interest as investors moved fast to capture the windfall from higher global valuation. Yes. And then when we move forward, you see the view here is that some global brokerages like Bernstein and Goldman, when they're updating their forecast yesterday, they suggested that if the conflict prolongs, Brent crude test would hit around $100 to $120 range, though OPEC is currently, has the spare capacity to ramp up production if they choose to intervene. Now, let's quickly move over to the American market. Yesterday, the American market saw a sharp wartime sell-off, followed by a partial recovery as investors weighed in on the impact of the US-Iran conflict. And looking at the index performance, you see that S&P 500 closed at 6,816.3, making a negative dip of 0.94%. And when we looked at NASDAQ, which closed yesterday at 22,516.69 points, making a negative adjustment, equally losing minus 1.0% as well. The Jones closed at 48,501.28, equally making a negative adjustment of minus 0.83%. And what are the market dynamics? The intraday panic, the Dow, initially plunged over 1,200 points before buyers stepped in mid-afternoon to trim the losses. Now, who are the winners from all this? Mostly the energy. They are boosted by $81 per year pricing. And then you look at other gainers here at the defense contractors. Look at Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. We are the only safe havens here. They are the only ones who are benefiting from this whole escalation at the moment. Yes, those are the energy guys and the guys in the hardware industry due to anticipated supply of arms. And then the heavy losers here are the airlines. Remember Delta and the big tech Nvidia, Apple, they led the decline as the rising fuel cost, and geopolitical risk triggered a mass exit. Then the another factor here is the fear gauge. Yes, you see things jumped as fast as to 8%, reflecting the highest level of market anxiety since the start of the year. Let's quickly run over to the European market. Yes, looking at the European market, as at yesterday, March 2026, will tell you that the European market suffered a heavy sell-off as an escalating Middle East conflict triggered an energy price shock. Yes, the conflict in Middle East is affecting a lot of markets right around the world right now. Stoxx 600, was down by 3.08%, and we saw DAX of Germany, down at 3.44%. CAC CSE 40 of France was down by 3.46%, and then when you look at FTSE 100, that's the UK, is down by 2.75%. Now, what are the drivers? You already know, energy crisis. Natural gas prices surged over 20% following strikes on Qatari LNG facilities and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we'll look at the sectors that are feeling the impacts. We'll tell you that the banking and travel stocks led the decline yesterday. IAG fell by 5.5%, while defense, BAE Systems, and shipping Maersk were rear gainers. Inflation alert is another factor here. At the Eurozone, inflation unexpectedly rose to 1.9%, fueling fears that the ECB will delay planned interest rate. Let's quickly, for want of time, juggle across to the Asian market. Asian market yesterday suffered a massive rout, with several indices seeing their worst performance in years, and this cannot be separated from the escalating Middle East crisis and surging in oil prices. Now, when you take a look at the index performance, you see that Kospi, that South Korea, plummeted by 7.24%, the region's biggest losers. Yes, led by a bloodbath in chip makers like SK Hynix, which yesterday was equally in the dip, making a minus 11.5%, dip. And then we see Nikkei 225, that's in Japan, which dropped about 3.06%, as exporters and automakers raid from energy supply fears. And then looking at Shanghai Composite, that's China, it fell by 1.43% as well. And then Hang Seng, Hong Kong, declined by 1.12%. So let's take a look at the key takeaways from this whole scenario that we're seeing around the world, especially at the Asian markets. Energy security panic. Yes, this is one of the factors, as heavy importers of Middle Eastern oil. Japan and South Korea saw aggressive selling as the Strait of Hormuz closure threatened to strand the fuel supplies. And then we'll look at another sector. Tech sector is equally hit despite the AI boom. Semiconductor giant Samsung, SK Hynix were dumped as investors feared war-related disruption to global logistics and manufacturing. Now we'll move forward to look at the Japanese yen, remained under pressure, trading near around 157 against the dollar. Yes, and that's said to be the safe haven. An appeal of the dollar overweighted the yen due to Japan's extreme energy vulnerability. So when you look at the markets around the world, starting from Nigeria, go to the American market, the European market, and the Asian market, one thing that is certain is that the market vulnerability is being dominated by the escalation in the Middle East, shaping up how things, move around the markets all over the world. But one thing is sure here, that when it comes to the Nigerian financial market, we'll tell you that the Nigerian market is looking very, very good and up. Key investors are taking position, reaping from the vulnerability of the fears of people, those who are dumping the shares due to the escalation in the Middle East. But one thing we can tell you, that it is an opportunity to take position. Why profit takers are moving in faster and taking positions and taking their profit, there is equally an opportunity for new investors to make incursion in the market. But here is a caveat. Please, before you make incursion into the financial sector, please do well to consult a certified financial analyst, and this is due to the volatility of the market. And this is where we would call it a day today on the business update here on Aneke TV. Till we come your way same time tomorrow, I still remain your host, Uche Osai. Bye-bye.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless. It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose fault is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last block.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and most populous nation, continues to grapple with a critical infrastructure deficit that hinders growth and development. Reliable electricity remains a major challenge. Although Nigeria has the capacity to generate 12,000 to 13,000 megawatts, supply to homes and businesses is inconsistent. In 2023, only 61% of Nigerians had access to electricity, leaving around 87 million people without reliable power, the largest electricity access gap in the world. This shortfall forces businesses to spend billions of dollars annually on backup solutions like diesel generators, diverting resources from investment and job creation. Transmission losses, generation inefficiencies, and gas supply challenges further suppress per capita electricity consumption, affecting productivity and competitiveness. Transport infrastructure also lags behind demand. While Nigeria has an extensive road network, over 70% of roads are in poor condition, slowing the movement of goods and people, raising transport costs for farmers and traders. Rail development remains limited, with only about 3,500 kilometers of operational track, insufficient for a country of over 220 million people. Overall, Nigeria's infrastructure stock, including roads, power systems, bridges, water systems, and digital networks, is estimated at about 30% of GDP, far below 70% international benchmark. This gap continues to constrain productivity and foreign investment. Water and sanitation infrastructure also fall short, leaving millions without access to safe drinking water or adequate sanitation. These affect public health, school attendance, and economic participation. Digital infrastructure is another critical area. Broadband penetration and data center capacity remain limited, concentrated mainly in Lagos, while other states lag behind. This restricts growth in fintech, cloud services, e-government, and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Experts estimate that hundreds of billions of dollars will be required annually over the next decade to close these infrastructure gaps. Mobilizing investment from private sectors, international finance institutions, and public-private partnerships is essential. For Nigerians, improving infrastructure is more than convenience, it is a path to safer roads, stable power, efficient transport, modern digital networks, more jobs, business growth, better health outcomes, and increased competitiveness on the global stage. Bridging this infrastructure divide is crucial to transforming Nigeria's potential into tangible progress for every citizen.
Good morning and welcome to News Around the Globe on Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma. Glad to have you join us. Headlines. President Tinubu appoints Dr. Taiwo Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. On the foreign scene, U.S. President threatens trade embargo on Spain over military base dispute. On business, petrol prices spike as NMPCL increases pump rates across Nigeria. Now the news in details. President Bola Tinubu has nominated Dr. Taiwo Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. The nomination was conveyed in a letter to Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Dr. Oyedele is set to replace Dr. Doris Aneke Uzoka, who has been redeployed as Minister of State for Budget and National Planning. Dr. Oyedele currently chairs the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Under his leadership, the committee drafted executive bills consolidating over 60 taxes into fewer than 10 statutes and proposed tax relief measures, including zero income tax for low-income earners. His nomination is subject to Senate confirmation. If approved, he is expected to oversee implementation of ongoing fiscal and tax reforms at the Federal Ministry of Finance. The House of Representatives Committee on Renewable Energy has issued a 2-day ultimatum to the Managing Director of the Rural Electrification Agency, Abba Aliyu, and Head of the Nigerian Electrification Program, Olufemi Akinyelure. They are to appear before the committee by March 5, 2026, over management of grants, loans, and investments from 2015 to 2024. Chairman of the committee, Afam Ogene, warned that failure to honor the invitation may lead to a warrant of arrest in line with constitutional provisions. The probe focuses on fund disbursement, procurement processes, and execution of rural electrification projects, including solar mini-grids. Meanwhile, Chairman of the House Committee on Rural Electrification, Mohammed Buka, has asserted that his committee's oversight authority and directed the agency to channel documents through his panel. The Renewable Energy Committee maintains that it has jurisdiction to proceed with the investigation. Kaduna State Government says security has improved ahead of 2026 Nigerian Institute of Public Relations National Conference. The Commissioner for Information in the state, Ahmed Maiyaki, stated that the state's security has moved from red to amber under Governor Uba Sani's administration. He announced that commercial activities have resumed in Birnin Gwari, with another 40 trucks of livestock transported weekly to markets. The state has also distributed over 900 trucks of fertilizers to about 200,000 smallholder farmers to boost food production. Mayaki added that over 200,000 out of school children have been enrolled and 255 primary health care centers upgraded. The conference, scheduled for April, will focus on food security and development. The Enugu State chapter of the All Progressive Congress, APC, has elected Dr. Martin Chukwuike as chairman and Honorable Chukwudi Nadozi as secretary of a new 37-member executive. The election took place at Michael Obara Square in Enugu during the party's state congress. Governor Peter Mba commended the peaceful conduct of the exercise and urged the new leadership to strengthen grassroots mobilization. He also lauded President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for economic policies he said increased revenue to states. The National Deputy Chairman South, Chief Ima Enuku, charged the new executive to focus on delivering electoral victories, while members of the National Congress panel described the exercise as credible. The Enugu State Police Command has arrested 4 suspects during raids on criminal hideouts within the metropolis. The spokesperson, SP Daniel Ndukwe, said the operations were carried out by the Central Police Station in collaboration with Neighborhood Watch and the Anti-Cult Tactical Squad. 2 suspects were arrested along the Holy Ghost rail line, with 4 mobile phones and substances suspected to be cannabis recovered. In a separate operation at Ekeo-Binagu in Emene, 2 additional suspects were apprehended and dried wheat were suspected to be cannabis seized. Commissioner of Police Bitrus Giwa said investigations are ongoing and the suspects will be charged to court upon conclusion of inquiries. He urged residents to continue supporting security agencies with credible information. President Bola Tinubu will swear in Olatunji Disu as Inspector General of Police following his endorsement by the Nigerian Police Council. The swearing-in is scheduled to take place during the Federal Executive Council meeting. According to the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the Police Council meeting was held at the State House, Abuja. It was attended by Vice President Kashim Shettima, State Governors, and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Hashimu Agungu. The appointment follows constitutional procedures requiring Council confirmation before assumption of office as Substantial Inspector General of Police. Police in Ebonyi State have confirmed the abduction of 3 siblings in Iwagu Inizi local government area. The police public relations officer Joshua Okando said investigations are ongoing to identify and apprehend the suspects. The children were reportedly taken from their compound by a woman identified as Ifoma who had rented an apartment in the area. Police say available information is being analyzed to track her whereabouts. Authorities noted that similar incidents were reported previously in parts of Abakaliki. The command has urged residents to remain vigilant and report suspicious activities promptly. Anambra State government has implemented a pro-rata salary payment system targeting civil servants who observe the illegal Monday sit-at-home order. February salaries reflected deductions based on days not worked. The Commissioner for Information in the state, Dr. Law Mefo, said attendance was verified through a clock-in and clock-out system. Workers absent or not captured on the electronic register were marked absent. The governor says the measure is aimed at restoring productivity and ending the sit-at-home practice. Some affected workers, however, have expressed concern over the scale of deductions. Nigeria and China have hosted a Women's Carnival in Abuja to mark the Chinese Lantern Festival and International Women's Day. Chinese Ambassador to Nigeria, Yang Jiangxin, highlighted the contributions of women to national development. He stated that women now accounted for over 40% of China's workforce and more than half of entrepreneurs in the country's internet sector. He also cited improvements in maternal health indicators. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Arts and Culture, Dr. Muta Mohammed, reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to policies promoting women's participation in the creative and digital economy. The federal government says the Abuja-Kaduna Highway project has reached 80% completion and is scheduled for delivery in April. Officials disclosed that 60 kilometers of continuous reinforced concrete pavement have been completed. The contract was awarded to InfWest Nigeria Limited after termination of the previous agreement. Construction teams are working round the clock to complete the remaining section. The Ministry of Works also reported that the Maraba-Kefi Road reconstruction stands as 90% completion. The project formed part of federal government's infrastructure development plan. Abia State Governor Dr. Alex Oti has laid the foundation for an ultra-modern general hospital in Ohanku, Ndoki, Okwa East local government area. The project is aimed at expanding access to healthcare in rural communities. The land for the hospital was donated by traditional ruler Eze Chibuzo Chinyere. State officials say the facility will provide comprehensive medical services and reduce preventable deaths. The event attracted political leaders across party lines, including members of the National Assembly. Construction work is set to commence immediately. News around the globe is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can stay connected with us on all social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now a quick recap of the major stories making the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed Dr. Taiwo Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. Coming up shortly, U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened a full trade embargo on Spain following Madrid's refusal to allow U.S. forces use of military bases. Petrol prices have surged nationwide as the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited adjusts pump rates. We'll be right back.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless. It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose fault is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last block.
in-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Welcome back. India has expressed grave concern as the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran enters its fourth day, threatening the lives of approximately 10 million Indian nationals in the Gulf. New Delhi confirmed casualties, including a death on a merchant tanker near Oman, and has called for urgent dialogue and diplomacy to de-escalate the situation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is engaging with Israeli, Iranian, and Arab leaders to safeguard India's strategic and human interests. The government has reassured citizens that domestic oil reserves are sufficient to absorb initial supply shocks. Indian airlines have launched emergency repatriation flights. The Ministry of External Affairs continues to advise citizens in the Gulf to register with local embassies and prepare further evacuations if hostilities intensify. A major military buildup is underway in Cyprus following a drone strike on the RAF Akrotiri base. The United Kingdom is deploying the Type 45 destroyer HMS Dragon and specialized helicopters, while France has dispatched the frigate Languedoc. And Greece is sending F-16 jets and the ship Psara with advanced anti-drone systems. The strike triggered evacuation of British military families and hundreds of residents, heightening tensions between London and Nicosia over sovereign base areas. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer clarified that the bases are not being used for US offensive operations. The military presence aims to deter further drone incursions from groups like Hezbollah and prevent the conflict from expanding in the Eastern Mediterranean. Allied countries are focusing on containment as global oil and gas prices rise. The Irish government is conducting an emergency evacuation of citizens stranded in the Middle East following recent regional hostilities. Foreign Affairs Minister Helene McEntee confirmed the first flight, capable of carrying 280 passengers, will depart from Oman. The operation prioritizes vulnerable Irish nationals trapped in the UAE due to flight cancellations and airspace closures. Minister McEntee noted that over 24,000 Irish citizens are registered in the region. Authorities stated that evacuation will proceed in phases, beginning with high priority cases, while flight schedules depend on safe conditions. The effort mirrors similar actions by the United Kingdom to protect its citizens amid escalating Gulf tensions. The United States President Donald Trump threatened a full trade embargo on Spain after Madrid denied access to American military bases for operations linked to the war in Iran. The announcement came during a meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent instructed to enforce economic restrictions. The move follows Spain's refusal to allow refueling of U.S. tankers and aircraft at Rota and Moron bases. Spanish officials emphasized adherence to national interest and existing European Union trade agreements. Legal experts are reviewing the move under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Analysts warn that a full embargo could restrict U.S. exports, including crude oil and LNG, and further destabilize global energy markets. Governor Mondo Obebolo held an emergency meeting with power sector stakeholders in Benin City after protests over persistent blackouts, estimated billing and illegal meter sales. The governor urged a holistic solution to the state's electricity challenges. The managing director of Benin Electricity Distribution Company, Jonathan Lawani, reported that Edo receives only 260 megawatts of the 760 megawatts required. He noted the company functions as a retailer dependent on generation and transmission from other providers. Governor Obebolo also addressed the controversy surrounding prepaid meters, warning against illegal sales and directing a wider stakeholders forum to resolve supply gaps and ensure fair power distribution to Edo residents. The federal government has banned cash tax collection and roadblocks for revenue enforcement as part of new presumptive tax regulations. Executive Secretary of the Joint Revenue Board, Olusegun Adesokan, announced that the reforms aim to digitalize payments and eliminate illegal collection practices. Small businesses with annual turnovers of 12 million naira or less are exempt, while larger informal businesses are subject to a simplified 1% turnover tax. Minister of Finance Wale Idun said the measures broaden the tax base while protecting small entrepreneurs. An ombudsman mechanism has been established to monitor authorities and ensure fair implementation. The reforms are part of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's agenda to accelerate GDP growth and formalize the informal economy. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petroan, has warned that domestic crude supply is necessary to stabilize fuel prices amid surging costs. National President Billy Gillis Harris said the spike, reaching naira 80 naira per liter at some stations, results from the conflict between Iran, the US, and Israel. Dangote Refinery's gantry price increase contributed to the surge, highlighting vulnerabilities in the local market and foreign exchange pressures. Petroan called on the federal government to ensure uninterrupted crude supply to local refineries and expedite the rehabilitation of government-owned refineries to secure long-term energy stability. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and private marketers raised petrol prices on Tuesday, with NNPCL outlets adjusting from 875 naira to 960 naira per liter. Some private stations now sell fuel at naira 80 naira per liter. The increase follows Dangote Refinery's gantry price adjustment and rising global crude costs linked to Middle East hostilities. Commuters face higher transportation and food costs as stations temporarily halted operations to recalibrate meters, reflecting the broader economic impact of fuel price volatility. The House of Representatives is moving to recover over $7 billion owed by foreign airlines operating in Nigeria. Chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Abiodun Faleke, called for a comprehensive flight and passenger manifest from 2023 to 2025. Data shows FAN collected 191.43 billion naira in 2023 against a targeted of 292.93 billion naira. Managing Director Olubunmi Kuku disclosed that only 8.8 billion naira of 25.86 billion naira owed was recovered. The committee aims to plug revenue leakages, ensure all landing, parking and terminal fees are paid, and reduce reliance on external borrowing. Now to the world of sport. The 100-day countdown to the 2026 FIFA World Cup has begun amid unresolved disputes between Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo. FIFA has not addressed Nigeria's petition on the eligibility of Congolese players Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Axel Tuanzebe. Nigeria's claim the players violated dual citizenship laws and FIFA statutes during the playoff victory over the Super Eagles. With DR Congo preparing for intercontinental playoffs, Nigerian football authorities and fans demand urgent adjudication to confirm the final participation ahead of the June 11 tournament. Brazilian winger Rodrigo Goes has been ruled out of the 2026 World Cup due to a ruptured ACL and torn meniscus in his right leg. Real Madrid confirmed the injury occurred during a 1-0 loss to Getafe. Brazil coach Carlo Ancelotti must now seek a replacement as the Selecao prepares for the tournament in the United States. Real Madrid's interim manager Alvaro Arbeloa faces reduced attacking options, with Kylian Mbappe also sidelined ahead of the Champions League clash against Manchester City. Now in entertainment, the action thriller Son of the Soil has premiered on Netflix, allowing viewers across Africa to stream the award-winning film. Directed by Chi Kyung Chung, it stars Razak Adoti as the former special ops paratrooper battling criminal syndicates in Nigeria. The film features Patience Ozokwo, Ireti Doyle, and Damilola Ogunsi. It won awards at AFRIF and the Black Star International Film Festival before it goes digital release. Cheong stated that the Netflix debut is aimed at sharing Nigeria's stories globally, while Nile Entertainment CEO Moses Babatope described it as essential to promoting African cinema internationally. The film will have a theatrical release in the US starting March 6th. And finally, before we go on news around the globe, a recap of our top stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed Dr. Taiwo Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. Dr. Oyedele previously chaired the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. He is expected to implement tax reforms and streamline revenue collection across Nigeria. On the foreign news, the United States President Donald Trump has threatened a full trade embargo in Spain. The move follows Spain's refusal to allow U.S. forces to use its military bases for operations linked to Iran. The U.S. administration warned the embargo could impact economic relations and international trade. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has increased petrol pump prices nationwide. Prices rose from 875 naira to 960 naira per litre at NNPCL outlets, with some private stations now selling at 980 naira per litre. The surge is linked to global crude volatility and rising international energy costs. That's news around the globe on Aneke TV. For more news and live updates, follow us across all social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico, and it is headquartered in Albuquerque. But currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media, because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Chinua Achebe taught the world that African stories matter. Through Things Fall Apart, gave voice to the colonized and challenged stereotypes. His legacy is proof that the pen can shape perception and preserve identity.
Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and most populous nation, continues to grapple with a critical infrastructure deficit that hinders growth and development. Reliable electricity remains a major challenge. Although Nigeria has the capacity to generate 12,000 to 13,000 megawatts, supply to homes and businesses is inconsistent. In 2023, only 61% of Nigerians had access to electricity, leaving around 87 million people without reliable power, the largest electricity access gap in the world. This shortfall forces businesses to spend billions of dollars annually on backup solutions like diesel generators, diverting resources from investment and job creation. Transmission losses, generation inefficiencies, gas supply challenges further suppress per capita electricity consumption, affecting productivity and competitiveness. Transport infrastructure also lags behind demand. While Nigeria has an extensive road network, over 70% of roads are in poor condition, slowing the movement of goods and people, raising transport costs for farmers and traders. Rail development remains limited, with only about 3,500 kilometers of operational track, insufficient for a country of over 220 million people. Overall, Nigeria's infrastructure stock, including roads, power systems, bridges, water systems, and digital networks, is estimated at about 30% of GDP, far below 70% international benchmark. This gap continues to constrain productivity and foreign investment. Water and sanitation infrastructure also fall short, leaving millions without access to safe drinking water or adequate sanitation. These affect public health, school attendance, and economic participation. Digital infrastructure is another critical area. Broadband penetration and data center capacity remain limited, concentrated mainly in Lagos, while other states lag behind. These restricts growth in fintech, cloud services, e-government, and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Experts estimate that hundreds of billions of dollars will be required annually over the next decade to close these infrastructure gaps. Mobilizing investment from private sectors, international finance institutions, and public-private partnerships is essential. For Nigerians, improving infrastructure is more than convenience, it is a path to safer roads, stable power, efficient transport, modern digital networks, more jobs, business growth, better health outcomes, and increased competitiveness on the global stage. Bridging this infrastructure divide is crucial to transforming Nigeria's potential into tangible progress for every citizen.
Need ad replacements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Corruption in Nigeria is not limited to isolated scandals. It is systemic, deeply embedded, and sector-specific, affecting critical areas of governance, particularly oil and gas, power, the judiciary, and local government administration. These sectors highlight how weak oversight, institutional fragility, and accountability gaps continue to constrain national development. Nigeria's oil and gas sector, the backbone of the national economy, remains highly vulnerable to corruption. Despite contributing the largest share of government revenue and foreign exchange earnings, the sector faces challenges of opaque accountability, weak audits, and repeated allegations of under-remittance. Independent investigations into the period between 2011 and 2017 uncovered unresolved revenue discrepancies running into tens of billions of dollars. Crude oil sales, fuel subsidy claims, and joint venture arrangements have been particular areas of concern, while reforms like the commercialization of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Petroleum Industry Act were designed to improve transparency, implementation gaps persist. Recent international asset recoveries, including over $50 million repatriated from the United States, illustrates the scale of past governance failures and the slow pace of accountability. The power sector also reflects the impact of weak governance on economic and social development. Since 1999, Nigeria has reportedly spent over $16 billion on interventions in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. Yet, supply remains unreliable for a population exceeding 200 million. Audits indicate contract inflation, poor project supervision, and regulatory uncertainty as major challenges. Debt within the gas-to-power value chain has forced government bailouts and emergency payments to suppliers. Recent steps, including settlement of legacy gas debts, aim to stabilize the sector, but experts warn that without transparent procurement, stronger regulation, and disciplined subsidy management, energy insecurity will persist. The judiciary is critical in enforcing anti-corruption laws, but public confidence remains low. Surveys conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime show that judicial officers receive some of the highest average bribe payments among public officials. Perception studies consistently rank the judiciary among the most corrupt institutions, particularly in politically sensitive or high-value cases. Prolonged trials, frequent adjournments, and the procedural loopholes contribute to public skepticism. Legal analysts argue that stronger judicial discipline, improved remuneration, and institutional safeguards are essential to restore credibility. At the local government level, corruption directly affects citizens' daily lives. Councils responsible for primary health care, education, sanitation, and rural infrastructure are often cited in surveys for routine bribery and mismanagement. The National Bureau of Statistics reports that more than half of Nigerians interacting with public officials encounter demands for unofficial payment, particularly in local administration, policing, and utilities. Weak financial autonomy, political interference, and limited oversight exacerbate these problems, reinforcing distrust in government. Across all sectors, corruption thrives where institutions are weak. Oversight is limited and consequences are uncertain. While anti-corruption agencies report thousands of convictions and hundreds of millions of dollars in asset recoveries, experts stress that enforcement alone cannot fix systemic issues. Economic studies estimate that corruption costs Nigeria billions of dollars annually and could erode up to 37% of GDP by 2030 if reforms stall. Beyond economic loss, it undermines service delivery, widens inequality, and weakens democratic legitimacy. Policy analysts now advocate for a governance-first approach, strengthening institutions, ensuring transparency in public finance, digitizing service delivery, protecting whistleblowers, and guaranteeing judicial independence. For Nigeria, the challenge is no longer diagnosing corruption, but sustaining the political will to reform the systems that allow it to persist. In a country facing economic pressure, security challenges, and rising public expectations, governance reform remains central, not optional, to national progress.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, 042. Please and greetings to everyone watching. You're tuned into Sunrise on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness and purpose. And doing this morning, we bring you the day and what the day is. I am Good Hope Chukoma, coming to you live from our studio in Enugu.
They say no matter how dark the night, the day must break. I am Uche Osai, and good morning to you, our global audience. Wherever you are, at your home, in your office, or in transit, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. We're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
It's Wednesday, 4th of March 2026. It's another new day. And when I talk about new days, a day for us to change and do what we have to do. So in this one edition of Sunrise, the Power Pack Morning, we have the latest news, weather updates, business talk, hot topics, and that Sunrise Pack to help you shape and own the day.
So, relax, grab that cup of coffee or tea, enjoy the ride, because the sunrise is here.
Coming up shortly, we'll kick things off with our quote of the day, something thoughtful and to shift your perspective and help you stay well driven and focused.
Then, it's straight into the day's top headlines. All the key news update that you need to remain informed will be shared, hot, tasty, and of course, debated.
We'll also give you a full weather forecast for cities across the southeast and beyond, so you know what to expect before stepping out of your house.
Then, we'll wrap things up by giving you a synopsis of the business landscape in Nigeria and letting you know what's happening in the sports world.
All right, now to our inspiration segment for today, and it's coming from a quote which says, no matter your age, you always wish you started younger, but today is the youngest you will ever be. No matter your age, you always wish you started younger, but today is the youngest you will ever be. The message from those quotes means that no matter your age, you always wish you started younger. At 40, you wish you started at 25. At 25, you wish you started at 18. At 18, you wish you started at 15. That feeling of, oh, I should have started earlier never really goes away. But here's the powerful truth. Today is the youngest you will ever be. You can't go back to yesterday. But you are younger right now than you will ever be again. So instead of regretting lost time, use the time you have. Start the business, start saving, start improving yourself, start praying, start learning that skill. The best time may have been years ago, but the second best time is now. 5 years from today, you will either say, I'm glad I started, or I wish I had started. Choose wisely and make sure you choose very, very wise. Make sure your decisions around this, make sure it is around what it is to be wise. Because today you are doing it, tomorrow you are not doing it. So it depends on how much you have made your choice. And I'm going to Mr. Uche right now to tell me what.
Looking at this quote this morning, and it's telling us that no matter your age, you always wish you started younger, but today is the youngest you'll ever have. And looking at this quote is simply telling me, or telling all of us, that there's no room to entertain regret. There's no time for that. Telling you that today is the youngest you can have. In fact, this minute is the youngest you can have. By 12 this morning, you should be older. So instead of spending your time entertaining regret, remember that tick tock doesn't wait for no one. So make that decision now to strive from where you stand. There's still a chance, there's still opportunity for you. So why not start this minute? That's what that quote is telling us, that there's no room for regret. There is no time is late for you to set out. Remember, the story has been told of the McDonald's. How when all and everyone felt and saw him as a failure, he started with frying chicken. Today, at that age, when we are told that the wife left him, seeing him as a failure, he is today the biggest name in that industry. Franchise across cities, across countries. He made a success. The story has been told of several individuals who at a very advanced age were able to realize their dreams. So you too can and should. There's no age limitation. They say age is but a number. Why dwell on those numbers to regret when you can set out anew, when you can make haste, because it's not yet 12. Because like I did tell you, by 12 this afternoon, you should be older. So there's nothing stopping you. Age can't stop you, time can't stop you, because we are told that man is not meant for time, but time for man. Therefore, everything you need is in you. The ability to move ahead is within you. So therefore, you need not look at your age. Set your sight on the goal. And we'll tell you here on Sunrise this morning that that goal is achievable, is realizable. Age is no barrier. Time wouldn't be a limit. As so far as the sun has set, the sunrise is upon us. You can too rise and you can shine.
Okay, you can too rise and you can shine. Yes, I am so inspired right now. You're still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Let's take a look at the weather across major cities in the southeast today. Good morning, Oka. Today it promises to be mostly sunny with minimal cloud cover. The afternoon sun will be intense, so outdoor activities are best done early or later in the evening.
Good morning, Enugu, and over to the core city. Expect a breeze of sun and light clouds. It will still be very warm. A gentle breeze may help slightly, but the afternoon heat will remain noticeable. Visibility will be clear and good conditions for travel.
Good morning, Abakaliki. Over in Ebonyi, Abakaliki, conditions will feel slightly hotter due to dry ground surfaces and strong sun intensity. Skies will stay mostly clear and rain chances are very low. Hydration is key here.
Good morning, Imo State. And journeying over to my favorite city of Owerri is mostly sunny and a bit more humid, which may make it feel hotter than the actual temperature. Expect a warm, slightly sticky afternoon and a mild but still warm night.
Good morning, Omahia. Expect plenty of sunshine with just a few passing clouds. Temperatures will rise into the mid-30 degrees Celsius, especially in the afternoon. The heat will peak between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., so outdoor activities are best done in the morning or evening.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, stay cool, dress light, and do keep an umbrella handy. But remember that either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report here on Sunrise at Aneke TV. We'll take a short break and we'll return with more updates. Stay tuned.
Join us on Arena, Aneke TV's premium current affairs program, where politics, development and governance come live. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, we host top professionals and thought leaders who speak their minds on issues shaping Nigeria and the world. It's inclusive, enriching and absolutely captivating.
The roadmap is let's have our environment secured so that investors can come.
If you don't know what economic security is, kidnapping will tell you what it is. You kidnapping ransom.
Customers are going to get these meters, and like we said, it's at no cost.
There are things that dialogue can handle. But when we leave it, I want to use the kinetic approach alone. You cannot.
For discussions that promise insight and deliver truth, stay tuned, stay informed, and keep watching Arena only on Aneke TV.
Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and most populous nation, continues to grapple with a critical infrastructure deficit that hinders growth and development. Reliable electricity remains a major challenge. Although Nigeria has the capacity to generate 12,000 to 13,000 megawatts, supply to homes and businesses is inconsistent. In 2023, only 61% of Nigerians had access to electricity, leaving around 87 million people without reliable power, the largest electricity access gap in the world. This shortfall forces businesses to spend billions of dollars annually on backup solutions like diesel generators, diverting resources from investment and job creation. Transmission losses, generation inefficiencies, and gas supply challenges further suppress per capita electricity consumption, affecting productivity and competitiveness. Transport infrastructure also lags behind demand. While Nigeria has an extensive road network, over 70% of roads are in poor condition, slowing the movement of goods and people, raising transport costs for farmers and traders. Rail development remains limited, with only about 3,500 kilometers of operational track, insufficient for a country of over 220 million people. Overall, Nigeria's infrastructure stock, including roads, power systems, bridges, water systems, and digital networks, is estimated at about 30% of GDP, far below 70% international benchmark. This gap continues to constrain productivity and foreign investment. Water and sanitation infrastructure also fall short, leaving millions without access to safe drinking water or adequate sanitation. These affect public health, school attendance, and economic participation. Digital infrastructure is another critical area. Broadband penetration and data center capacity remain limited, concentrated mainly in Lagos, while other states lag behind. This restricts growth in fintech, cloud services, e-government, and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Experts estimate that hundreds of billions of dollars will be required annually over the next decade to close these infrastructure gaps. Mobilizing investment from private sectors, international finance institutions, and public-private partnerships is essential. For Nigerians, improving infrastructure is more than convenience, it is a path to safer roads, stable power, efficient transport, modern digital networks, more jobs, business growth, better health outcomes, and increased competitiveness on the global stage. Bridging this infrastructure divide is crucial to transforming Nigeria's potential into tangible progress for every citizen.
Welcome back. Let's take a quick look at what's making the front page headlines across major newspapers today.
And joining us this morning is Aneke TV's in-house analyst, Mr. Res Arum. Mr. Res, a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Uche.
Okay. And without missing to ask that signature question, let me ask, what's happening in Nigeria? You're waiting for me to ask you how is Nigeria treating you. So what's happening in Nigeria, just in a nutshell?
Well, just like it is happening across the world, it is full of apprehension everywhere, because the confrontation in the Middle East is snowballing into a serious economic crunch for most nations of the world. Flights have been suspended, people are no longer traveling, and it brings about, of course, the fuel prices are going up, both the crude and the refined products. So I think Nigeria has to contend with that amidst the numerous security challenges.
Okay, and seeing the smile on your face this morning, there's no doubt that Nigeria is treating you fairly well. And with us this morning is Gift Obodo. Gift, I see that smile on your face. How are you?
I'm fine, and as well I'm fine.
You're fine. The smile on your face tells me that Nigeria is treating you well. So it's a pleasure to have you here on Sunrise.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much. We go over to newspapers. We have from The Nation, we have Nigerians in Middle East send distress calls as government halts pilgrimage. In The Nation's newspaper, Nigerians in Middle East send distress calls as government halts pilgrimage. Now we go over to The Punch, where we have tax law. VAT hits record 1 trillion naira as new sharing era begins. Punch says tax law. VAT hits record 1 trillion naira as new sharing era begins. Now we go back to the Vanguard. It says Middle East war, homes, factories, others had hit as fuel prices rise. Vanguard says Middle East war, homes, factories, others had hit as fuel prices rise. Now, still on the newspaper headlines, we have Daily Trust. Daily Trust headline says federal government suspends Christian pilgrimage over Middle East crisis. Federal government suspends Christian pilgrimage over Middle East crisis. Now we have Daily Sun. Daily Sun says petrol hits naira 37 naira per litre in Lagos, naira 75 naira in Abuja as Middle East crisis takes toll. Daily Sun says petrol hits naira 37 naira per litre in Lagos, naira 75 naira in Abuja as Middle East crisis takes toll. Now finally in The Guardian we have new electoral Act faces backlash over restriction on petition. New Electoral Act faces backlash over restriction on petition. And we're going to look at the first newspaper headlines today, which is from The Nations, which says Nigerians in Middle East send distress calls as government halts pilgrimage. It says Nigerians living in parts of Middle East like Qatar, UAE and Iran have made distress inquiries about safety and possible evacuation as escalating conflict in the region disrupts travel and raises security fears. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Looking at the Nation newspaper, is quite contrast to what we had yesterday. Remember that when we were discussing here on this platform yesterday, there was this headlines where the FG is telling us that the Nigerians in Iran and Middle East have not called for evacuation, telling us that they are comfortable where they are. And we did ask and raise the question, does the nation need to wait until its citizens, its nationals in a crisis-laden environment begin to cry out for you to know that you needed to go for evacuation? Immediately this at the rising of this escalation, when the tensions were high, there were high security alert by embassies around the world detailing their nationals either to travel or not to travel. And here we are waiting for the crisis to escalate to tell Nigerians that Nigerians are okay. That's what it means if they are not calling to be evacuated. And quite contrary to that perception yesterday, we are seeing here that Nigerians in Middle East have now placed the call. So how do we get to evacuate these individuals? Because one is quite aware that with the escalation in Middle East, that the whole of this area has become mostly a no-fly zone, as most airlines have at this point in time suspended flying. When you go across that airspace, as at this time, you will know that what you will see up there should be military hardwares, military jets, fighters hovering around. So how are you going to make incursion, for example, in Iran, or get into Israel at this point in time to evacuate people? Mr. Rez, I don't know if you are as appalled as I am that, one, we are waiting for our nationals in a crisis-laden environment, in fact a war-torn environment, to cry out before we send a rescue mission. And these are just not nationals. I'm aware that we'll have our people, our high commissions, our experts are equally there, and we're waiting till they tell us that all is now whole for us to come evacuate them. And now we are seeing the outcry that Nigerians in the Middle East are calling, to be evacuated. Even as we speak, there are pilgrims in this region. Mr. Rez.
Yes, you see, that goes to point at nonchalancy, not being proactive enough in addressing issues when they are coming. If the Nigerian government has been proactive, the Ministry of External Affairs have been very proactive, immediately the problem started, they would have been thinking about what will happen to our nationals in these places. You see, the Nigerian government, of course, hardly suspended pilgrimage to various places. There are people who even came back yesterday from Israel, Jordan, and there's a suspension on any further travel based on the fact that even flights to Middle East and even beyond Middle East, because even such flight that goes to Malaysia, Spa Asia, are going through the airspaces of the Middle East, and most often may be seen to be threats in the sky and will be shot. So people are avoiding casualties of such in the manner of passenger planes. So these passenger flights have been suspended. So we have not been very proactive. And you are now saying people are comfortable. How can you say that somebody is comfortable because he has not made a call? It is your responsibility, primary, to protect lives. Whether the person, any Nigerian, is in the moon, you still work very hard to ensure that the safety of the Nigerian in the moon is assured. That if anything is happening in the moon, the person in the moon should be evacuated back to Nigeria to be sure that he or she joins other Nigerians Of course, it is not as if maybe the safety in Nigeria is superlative. Sometimes some of the people that left the shores of this country left because of insecurity. And now we are talking about insecurity at the various other places.
sorry to interject. When you made that comment, I remember what somebody told me yesterday when we were, talking. He said, are we blaming the government for telling us that the people have not called for help? But do we know that some of the people in those areas may be safer than people who are in Nigeria?
That's exactly.
Yeah, and not that you said it, and then my mind begins to run wild. How can somebody in Iraq be safer than somebody in Nigeria? Nigeria is not war.
The Iranians are even gambling. The Iranians are protesting because Trump and Israel, America and Israel have said the residential places are safe, and they're working very hard to ensure that they do not encroach in residential places. So
you agree that
so Iranians, some Iranians are of course celebrating that they are becoming free, because the government has been a dictatorial government, and because it is a dictatorship, people are not free. Fundamental rights are impeded on. People are not free to do the things the way they ought to do it. And as such, when Khamenei and the rest other members, cohorts, were exterminated from the planet Earth, they became happy, and they are even battling with the police force, who are trying to stop them from celebrating and all that. They are battling with that presently. So, and America has said, take over your country, which means that they are about stopping the dictatorship. Remember, Arafi was elected to become the supreme leader, and Arafi was killed just soon after, less than 24 hours. He was killed. So it now remains Mr. Chief Judge and the president. They have a president, but the president is like a toothless bulldog. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any powers. The supreme leader has all the powers, and he dictates what happens. It's like a military dictatorship. So the president have been left there, and even Americans and Israelis know that this person is set to take whatever thing that comes to achieve peace in their country. If he's one of those radicals, his too would have been exterminated a long time, even before, alongside with Khamenei and the rest of us. So if you are saying that the people in the Middle East, Nigerians in the Middle East are calling for safety, well, you are talking about people. What about the embassies? The embassies in the Middle East, has Nigeria said anything about them? Bombs are going from Iran to Bahrain, going to Saudi Arabia, going to Kuwait and all that. Has Nigeria ever thought it expedient to think about how to make evacuations for them? They have not. Although they responded, the Nigerian government responded, that they have advised Nigerians to be close to their embassies and ensure that whatever thing they have to do will be done. But it is already a no-go area. I do not think about where else they could be evacuated, because every evacuation is by flight. Even the sea is not healthy. If you use the sea, the warships are all around the whole place, and there are incursions at those areas too. You see, you find out that Iran, although in these circumstances Iran is like a lone ranger now, because all the other countries have been talking about helping Iran. We have not seen any of them. I have not seen any of them shot at any of the persons that are fighting Iran. You see, even the British ship, warship, or oh no, not warship, no, but their plane, the F-35, British F-35, have been able to stop a drone that is set to land in their base in Cyprus. So you find out that even Britain has joined. It is now like a coalition of the world fighting the terrorism headquarters of the world. You know, because it is assumed that Iran is the terrorism headquarters of the world, where the then supreme leader sponsors terrorism in all parts of the world. You find out that all these terrorists, Al-Qaeda, Houthi, this, that, both in Syria, in Yemen, wherever, you even see him extending his tentacles to even Afghanistan, and so on. So that is why Israel do not want to sleep if they have such an enemy very close by. And they have always remained very ardent, formidable ally of the United States. So wherever they go, the United States goes with them. And of course, maybe they are trying to adhere strictly to the biblical dictate that anyone who blesses Israel will be blessed, and anybody who curses Israel will be cursed. And America has remained blessing Israel, and I think possibly that's why America has been blessed almost more than any other country of the world.
Anyways, that's a very contextual and contestable. Many may want to disagree, but
that's from a religious perspective.
Yes.
Of course, in religion there are tendencies for disagreement.
Of course.
So, but it is still sayable. These are recorded facts that I have mentioned here.
All right. Ms. Gift, do you believe or you agree that people in Iran and the Middle East may be safer than people in Nigeria?
First of all, I have just quite a few numerous things to disagree. First, on the point that the law provides for self-help. It's enshrined in when necessary circumstances happen. There's a provision for self-help. I think section 33 to sub A of the Mexican Constitution provides for it when the need arises. So, like I said yesterday, when people wait on the government to do everything for them, and they don't take necessary action to be sure to guarantee their own safety, it's something that should, at some point, people should take caution of. You don't wait on one person to do everything when you know that your life is endangered. Now, these people had a preview. Like one thing I like about Americans is that before they take necessary action, they might have given some warning sign ahead. They might have said something, and these people have perceived, some signs of danger ahead. Now, they did not, take necessary precaution to be like, okay, let me go back to my fatherland, my motherland, to be able to protect myself and this. They had to remain there when there was an upshot of war. Then there is an expectancy of government to come and pick them up or evacuate them. The problem is not evacuating them. Now, how sure is it going to be a successful operation? Because the atmosphere is clouded with a lot of weapons up. So now, the possible means of the government coming into the country to pick them up is something I say as a dead zone area. Like it's the mission is impossible as well as possible at some certain rates. So I feel like people should necessarily take action and not wait on the government to do everything, because they have already known that they at some point in time there will be an upside of some kind of war. Things will happen. So they have to relax. Wait for the government. I'm not actually exonerating the government from doing the needful, but at some certain point, human beings should take up some action, precautionary action, to be able to guarantee their safety at some point. Because waiting on the government is just like sometimes when we see the situation on board, you cannot. When you said it's safer to be in Iran than to be in Nigeria. Somehow there's a truth there, because if you check here, we're suffering from a lot of things, like here internally, and then then some people might there be safer than coming in, because you might bleed here and some people will be like, oh, yeah, come back. They'll say no. It's better they stay there than to come here and start again and start juggling and suffering and everything. Where would they start from? So at that point, I feel like there's a truth here.
All right, but if we're to bring this issue into context, looking at the whole Israeli-US conflict with Iran, one was expecting that there will be meaningful talks coming out from Geneva, on this issue, that it will be resolved around diplomatic table before things did escalate. And bearing in mind that there are diplomatic missions as well, when we talk about Nigerians here, it's not like just ordinary Nigerians that strolled into the conflict area for their specific interests. There are people who are around this area on pilgrimage as well. And looking at the same constitution that you're citing, part of that constitution did speak to the government being responsible for the welfare of its citizens. And looking at that, I ask you do not see anything wrong in the government being proactive to evacuate its citizens before things escalated? I bear the fact that perhaps some may be there, on their own personal whims and search for economic relevance in the crisis-laden area.
Like I always say, I did not wholly exonerate the government from, taking some part of the, responsibility on discharging their duty. Now, but what I'm focused on is the fact that in as much as the government did not, as you are saying that
we look at this, the fastness with which this conflict escalated. We were talking about having talks, diplomatic talks in Geneva, and then the whole thing, skyrocketed to the elimination of Khomeini. Do you understand? It happened. No one was expecting the onslaught that happened over the weekend, and it did happen.
The only thing I want to say is that you don't, at that point when there was a diplomatic talk by these people, now before this, there has been warning ahead. They have been, the American has said a lot of things on their press conference, trying to tell the supreme leader to declare from some actions. Now these are signs. You don't wait for the manifestation of those signs. That's one thing people should understand. You don't wait when these signs are manifested before you be able to take precautionary steps to deter these actions. Now, assume there were signs about everywhere, before America were trying to know if they could, find a way around this to adjust this before it escalated. But I think the aggressiveness of the Supreme Leader did not, wholly go down with America and Israel, so they have to take action immediately before things escalate to the worst point.
I agree with you to an extent, but let me point it out that there are those there on diplomatic mission who can't leave their duty post, even as the crisis, the way you put it, was so evident. They are in no way to leave their duty post, and they have families as well. So these are not just ordinary Nigerians that we're talking about, and it is the practice around the world. Even if they will say that yes, the citizens are maybe, if I should borrow the word, heady not to move out from these places, but it is the primary responsibility of government to rescue its nationals, irrespective of how and why they are still in the environment. And that's what we're saying, that the Nigerian government should have been proactive in reaching out. Yesterday we were talking about the US that sent out security alert to its nationals to beware of how they move about in Nigeria due to protest in support of the Iranian ousted demise leader Khomeini, the Islamic movement in Nigeria. And these are warnings. If their citizens peradventure remain in Kaduna, anywhere, and it becomes so expedient that they have to extradite or evacuate such an individual, what I suppose that such nations will do is first of all evacuate before asking questions, and this is what we are raising here. So, but let me go to Good Hope. Good Hope, you feel the government have no business in evacuating people who are found or left in the Middle East?
First of all, I want to come into what she said, that I had an issue with. You were saying, talking about self-help, where there is already a tension, like Ms. Luce said, there was no pre-information about this. It just had to escalate and everything started happening. I would say that government, being a government, has the higher hand to do the evacuation as they should. Bringing in self-help here would mean, do you mean that the self-help is that they should join other countries and come back?
Okay, so in your opinion, there's no need, the world should have been is that governments would in any case go in to save the people.
Go in to save the people, straight, there's no other thing.
All right. The notions are well gotten, I understand, but in these instances, if I may equally to her line of argument, is normal and human nature demands that we escape crisis-laden area, and what she's trying to say is that once we've sensed the sign of danger, we should have started moving, leaving the area. And Mr. Reyes rightly pointed out that there were some people that were on pilgrimage that were evacuated via Jordan that returned, and to that we will give kudos to the government, but we expect more, even though my whole basis here is that I do not understand the rationale when people tell me that some people in the Middle East may be safer than someone in Nigeria at the moment. These are the areas I was waiting that you gentlemen will help me understand. But be that as it may, we'll move on.
All right, the next newspaper we have is from Daily Trust. Daily Trust says, Federal government suspends Christian pilgrimage over Middle East crisis. Federal government suspends Christian pilgrimage over Middle East crisis. The federal government of Nigeria, through the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, NCPC, has suspended all Christian pilgrimages to Israel and Middle East because of the escalating security tensions in the region. The decision, aimed at protecting the safety and welfare of Nigerian pilgrims, comes after the safe return of the last group of the 2025 pilgrimage and will remain in place until conditions in the Middle East improve. Yes.
All right. It's still in the same line with what we are talking about, and there's no more need dwelling on this very issue. I suppose that government is listening to us and that the right things will be done. Suspending pilgrims when there is crisis in the area is the right thing to do, and after the crisis, there's no doubt people are free to still embark on exhibiting their religious leanings, especially given that both religions that we have in Nigeria, are very much on pilgrims. The Christians go to the Holy Land, pilgrims to the Jerusalem and the holy sites in Israel, while our Muslim brothers go to the Mecca to observe the Hajj and the whole essence of it. But given the situation around the world at the moment, this may not be feasible, but after that we would still go back to this whole practices, but one thing remains at this point, and it's paramount that everyone is safe in Nigeria. So let's move on and take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper.
Okay, I think you're talking about the Daily Sun, where petrol hits Naira 37 litre in Lagos. And okay, all right. Daily Trust says APC Congress is lined up behind Tinubu. APC Congress is lined up behind Tinubu. Mr. Chief, this is about the Congress that is coming up, and I don't know what you think about it.
All right. Looking at this Daily Trust newspaper, where we're told that APC Congress line up behind Tinubu, Mr. Reyes, I'll quickly bring you to this conversation. We are quite aware, and you've alluded to this a number of times, that expectedly one expects that all APC apparatchik would rally and line behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and giving to the congresses that we've witnessed, even the one that happened here yesterday in Enugu, we'll say that all efforts are geared towards, having one candidate, expectedly, one presidential candidate in the APC, and that's the person of the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I ask, like I have asked in the past, do you expect another contender in the APC for the seat of presidency?
There's no expectation like that, but if it so happens, then it must have been stage managed for the purpose of ensuring there's a contest. Otherwise, the incumbent president has all it takes to fly in the APC. In fact, after the congresses, the state congresses across the nation yesterday, I do not know of any of the states that have not had theirs. If there are, then there may be reasons for any deferment, but across the nation, the state congresses held and the chairmen of parties emerged. And during their speeches, various speeches in various states, the governors and the party chairman elected were all queuing behind Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, and who will also be a presidential candidate of their party, who is most likely, of course, it is like stating the obvious, because he certainly is the leader of the party, and they still believe in him, and they believe in his leadership, and that's why they are queuing behind him. So if there is any other person coming out to run for presidency under APC, I do believe, and let me even say it, personally I believe it is stage managed for the purpose of saying or ensuring that somehow there was a contest. Ordinarily, there won't be any contest in APC presidential nomination.
There's no doubt that everyone in APC is standing on the mandate, and according to everyone who is on the mandate, the president has performed very well, and a second time will be seen by the APC members as rewarding performance. But I dare ask, do you see this as being a challenge to every other political party?
Of course, the building up of APC, the way they are going, is a very serious challenge to the opposition political parties. All of them. It's a serious challenge. You can see that even the other political parties, these parties brought in governors, members of the National Assembly, State Assembly, and all that, members. Yet, these members have mostly cross-carpeted to the APC in support of the APC ideology, and of course personified in the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So it is a big challenge for all the other opposition political parties.
It's a big challenge.
It's a very big challenge. If you look at even when the coalition is working hard, even within the coalition, there are still some cracks amongst the coalition, such cracks that is not presently detected in the APC. You know, the APC as a body has about 31 governors or 30 governors going, but we have not detected any crack as per internal crisis in APC. But these other parties here and there, if you come to PDP, there is courts and court claims and counterclaims, petitions in court and all that. When you come to ADC too, it is not easy. Even some people have even gone to court to say that ADC should be the Aneke should be able to void them as a political party. People are in court presently, as we are talking, that they do not meet the political party requirements to become a political party that will vie for elections in Nigeria, not having any seat, even a councillor nationwide. So, and people are in court contesting that. And of course, the Electoral Act has some provisions about who qualifies to be a political party that will run for elections. So, nobody knows exactly what, but it depends on the interpretation of the court, because some of these parties, there are parties that the INEC registered newly, will there be now be registered because they do not have anybody? They may not have anybody, but they are starting newly. So the ATC as a coalition is like a new platform. That is exactly what the courts will look at before such interpretation. So it's a challenge to all the political parties outside APC. The APC, the way they have gone, is a very big challenge.
All right. Whenever I hear people mention the PDP, I jot a little because from where I stand, I still see a PDP that will be made in litigations as we journey along into this 2026 preparatory to 2027 election. But I dare ask, we've heard in the news that the opposition political parties, especially the coalition ADC, is waiting for fallout from the ADC congresses, where from their primaries there will be those who will be disgruntled and wanting to join the fold in the collaboration in ADC. Do you see that happening?
They do not even understand the Electoral Act. There's not going to be any fallout. You see, after registration, the registration will end and the political parties will now submit their register to INEC. And remember that the registration now is a digitized registration, that is a biometric registration. And you hand over to INEC. Now tell me, when somebody in APC, there's going to be a fallout, he will leave APC, resign from APC, come back to register in ADC. When is he going to do that? When the registers are ready, how do you come about that? There's no such fallout again. That area has been closed and closed. So it's no longer what it used to be, that when people do not get nomination in various other political parties, they will run to political parties where positions are empty and take over. No, that one has been, blocked by the present Electoral Act. Right. So there's not going to be anybody who is waiting for a fallout. You will remain in your party. You will not even register in any other political party until after the elections. If the political parties are reviewing their, database, they'll come
and politicians are comfortable sitting in their homes.
No, they do. You see, that's why I said people were only interested in electronic transmission without looking at the various other amendments. Like I said, maybe we're going to come that, if we have a little time, that even the qualification, what you can challenge in a tribunal in terms of qualification now, is not contained in the Electoral Act. While, section 138 and that of 187, subsection 1 JJJ, both of them, tells you what will qualify one to sit or to stand for election in Nigeria. Yet you come out to expunge same, so that when you go to tribunal, you don't canvass that in the tribunal about somebody not being qualified, maybe coming through certificate forgery or any forgery of sort, or perjury or things like that. They are not contained in the present Electoral Act. They spurned it. They just mentioned two things that will make you to contest the position of any candidate during an election.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, we'll move over to the Guardian newspaper. Which says faultily designed, vandalism, neglect endanger $3.4 billion rail overhaul. Faultily designed, vandalism, neglect endanger $3.4 billion rail overhaul.
All right. Looking at this newspaper headline, where we are told that faulty design, vandalism, neglect endangers $3.4 billion rail overhaul. Mr. Ress, this is making the news headlines. and usually, this where we usually take exceptions, that we are being told at this point in time that faulty design, let's take away the issue of vandalism, faulty design being part of why a project of this magnitude, we are being told, is being, endangered and subject to overhaul. What does this say to the Nigerian leadership in terms of planning and execution? One would expect that designs is part of the first parameters that would secure and see that is, if one may say, spotless before we get into execution.
Well, you see, it goes to show incapability, oversight, negligence. For a government project, it should be handed over to experts to do a design. After it will be presented before another group of persons to do an appraisal of the design, to look at whether it passed the standard required for design or not. And if it passes, then you go for the implementation. But for government to just give a contract for design of a humongous project, a big project like that of rail, 3.4 billion or 3.4 something billion dollars, and you do not look at your design ab initio to look at whether the design is successful, whether it has some problems, if there are shortcomings in the design. I wonder if we do have engineers here, if we do have our indigenous engineers here. If we do not, then we may have given it to, what is the role of this Nigerian Society for Engineers? And those who even say they have passed this, they have passed current, they have passed, what is their role if we have to design a rail project and we come out to begin to say it is faulty? In fact, it is disheartening. It doesn't speak well of the nation. It doesn't speak well of the engineering sector in Nigeria. It doesn't speak well of the engineers themselves. It doesn't speak well of the Federal Ministry of Works. In fact, it is a shame. Sorry, I have to use the word. I may withdraw it, but it is shameful to have a situation like that in our engineering sector.
In our engineering sector?
Yes, engineering sector.
Or in our Ministry
engineering sector. Ministry of Works should be able to collaborate with our engineers, our Society of Engineers, to look at what we are doing. And if they gave that contract to a foreign firm, and the firm came out with the design that is, there are no other body that has gone through that design. And when they present the design, the Nigerian government with its engineering department in the Ministry of Works would have looked at it. And if they looked at it and saw it has no problem, and of course gave it a pass mark, then it means somebody somewhere compromised. Maybe the organization that designed it, came to see them, and given the fact that they have been seen, and when I'm saying seen in quotes, it means that they overlooked whatever the fault is, given the factors that are inherent in Nigeria, that anything goes in Nigeria.
Anything goes.
Anything goes in this country. Otherwise, why should there be any such mistake on the part of our government that manages our economy?
Okay.
Do we actually need development?
Okay.
And the transportation industry is a serious sector that will build up our development, that bring about development. Because without transport, and when you're talking about mass transit. Rail is mass transit. That is number one mass transit, because one train moving could go about with several thousand tons of goods and humans and all that. At a go, no vehicle takes that. No one vehicle takes that. But just one on the go, that's mass transit. And that will make the lives of Nigerians better, more meaningful. Transportation cost.
And money is spent on feasibility studies before these projects
are Sure, of course.
So we are losing both ways.
We are losing everywhere. That's why I use the word shameful.
Okay. Let me go to Ms. Obodo. We are talking about faulty design. But away from faulty design, the issue of vandalism, neglect, endangers our $3.4 billion rail overhaul. And I ask, one expects that in this time, Nigeria should have a very viable transportation system that is rail-driven, given the efficacy of the rail system to be able, like Mr. Rez did say, transport men and material across the country within feasible, foreseeable time frame compared to the land transport and the cost of airfares as well.
I think for me, the only suitable way is to use the sea to transport this. And I feel like when it comes to the area of vandalization, government has always created a loophole for such occurrences. Because when I say neglect, both of them work hand in hand. Both of them can't be separated from each other. So I feel like the government has created an avenue for these two things to come in. And I think with the overuse of land means to get this thing across, it has come to a point that it is the easiest and safest way in which these things can be harmed or destroyed. So I feel like the seaways could do better. Transportation through the seaways could do better to avoid unnecessary, because land, a lot of dangers are prone. A lot of danger. It's not that the seaway there's not much danger, but I think at a point it's more safer. More safer. Bearing in mind that what they're actually carrying is something of national value. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. One thing is fundamental here, that either good or bad, the only underlying fundamental here is the government. Yes, talk about the Ministry of Works. And one thing is obvious, that in this time we shouldn't be speaking to, issue of faulty design. We shouldn't be alluding to vandalism. We shouldn't be talking about neglect. And this is a period where Nigeria is battling with scarce resources, where we're talking about reforms. People are tightening up their belts, and one shouldn't expect waste of any kind, of any manner. And we call on government to please stand up to their duties. Where Nigeria stands at this point in time, we cannot afford any sort of waste. And having said that, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll continue to look at other stories that are making news across the country.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you work. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In a world never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history. One station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
You're still watching the sunrise, and many thanks for staying with us. Now we'll take a look at other news or stories making news headlines across the country. And one of such news headlines is that DSS arrests secondary school teacher over alleged assassination attempt on P2B in Edo State. And he said that the Nigerian State Department of State Services has detained a man in connection with the recent attack and alleged assassination threats targeting Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi. And Mr. Rex, let me draw you quickly. The DSS arresting a school teacher for that attempt?
Well, we are told they are alleging that the school teacher may be involved in the attack. But who knows if it's not to placate the scandal associated with that attack. Because when you're talking about a school teacher being arrested, then we're expecting that the school teacher, if he is seen to be complicit in that, will be able to say he's partners in crime. And then that will go to say, because we were told that there were many of them that came.
All right. What you're saying is that we hope that this is not a cover-up.
Thank you.
All right. Good hope. You have anything to say to this?
Yes. Basically, it's now a problem around the school teacher, alleged school teacher, and DSS. The presentation and the formation having the school teacher being arrested, tells a lot of things. You could tell on the standard of living. Maybe there was something that was offered much more than what it was. But we're going to see what happens at the end of the day.
All right.
I just have one thing. When the Edo attack happened on Mr. P2B, I felt like there was something that people did not notice. Now, in as much as this thing were happening, I think they forged ahead to, set up a distraction on the media to be able to, coup around, to tag the name around this. Immediately the distraction subsided, someone was held up to be responsible for the act. So in my own dimension, I feel like there's a hitch up somewhere around that people need to think and unravel. It's just not ordinary. There was a distraction. A long time. Immediately this distraction went down, there was someone to hand over as a scapegoat.
All right.
So I think it's not normal.
Okay. In all, one thing that is here is that we are seeing, or the government wants us to believe that something is being done. There's an investigation carried out to this effect. Be that as it may, what the generality of Nigerians expect is that such should not happen. And let the public be made aware of the, evidence, drawn from this investigation. But the bottom line here is that we do not want any attack on the political leadership of this nation, either those in the opposition or those in the government. We ask for a civil political space. And moving on from that, there's equally in the news as well that the University of Ibadan has asked 226 undergraduate students to withdraw over poor cumulative grade point average. Yeah, due to their GP, the university is asking about 226 students to withdraw. Mr. Rice?
Yeah, I do not know exactly how to begin to look at the standard of learning in Nigeria presently. But I also believe that there are still persons who are going to school and who are determined to learn. I don't want to blame the curriculum because over time the curriculum has been looked at and have been improved on. The curriculum is good, but it's about those who are using the curriculum, whether the students are serious. When the university asks because they have not been able to perform well, as so about 200 had to withdraw, it means they have not done well. And then we know that our secondary education, which is a prelude to the university admission, has been wobbling and fumbling. You find out that at the secondary school level, many of the students are no longer interested in learning. Sometimes even the parents aid in some malpractices. And so when they have their high scores, you know what happened during the JAMB result, when the Anambra person came highest in Nigeria, and it was later, investigated and found that she did not actually come highest. That's something that was on the hand in her coming first. Therefore, a lot of people sit for JAMB, sit for West African School and NECO and the allied, exams, NATEP and all that. And they do all these, what the Nigerians call mago-mago, that is cheating, some malpractice, and come out tops. But you find out when they get into the university, a university that is serious, a university where the lecturers are serious teaching, you find out that these kids do not do well, especially where the teachers, the lecturers, are serious to evaluate them. And during that evaluation, they are found to be wanting. So that is the kind of things you get in Nigeria. So we have to actually begin to watch the people we admit and how they come about, the result with which they gain the admissions.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Obodo, do we blame the students, 226 students told to go home? Do we blame the school, the students, or the parents? Or do we even blame the government?
I have a different dimension for this.
Okay.
And the dimension is that nothing starts from the low, it starts from the top.
It starts from the top.
Yes.
But we're meant to believe that it starts from down. Oh, it comes from the up to down.
To down.
Okay.
Because if you look at these children or these people, the students, and you see that they are emulating some people. Because if there is no avenue for such an act, there won't be any expectancy of low results. Now, these people have watched over time, view the situation of on board the country where everybody acts the way it wants, and then coming down to the school authority, they feel like when you come into an institution where you know that you are paying for something to learn or to acquire knowledge, and therefore and the kind of pain you are required to go through the process, you don't take it for laxity. Now, where there is laxity is when there is a view of there's an escape route towards this that could make their journey more easier. So these children, with the notion that they have an escape route in mind, and the ones on the top has created those avenue for this, they feel like, no, why stress themselves? They can actually make use of this, and eventually at some point, maybe with the change of things, they get disappointed, people turn over to start blaming them. No, I think I should caution blame to the people at the top, because they are the ones those children role model in some certain
all
acts.
right. Good hope. Are you apportioning blame to those at the top as well, or to the system, or parents, or the students that fail to, make a cumulative average that is acceptable by the university?
I would blame the system first, starting from the family. Because many years ago when I was in school, when you go home, you are meant to show what you did in school, how it was done and all that. And then because of parents lacking the chance to communicate effectively with their children, they all know to give the money. Then I also blame the school for some maybe activities, or we could see the hands of some of the lecturers
Yes.
not being able to do what they have to do. So I think that's all I can contribute to this.
All right. We'll continue to, look at the system generally. Both the students that were asked to leave, like Mr. Rest did point out, what was their foundation? Have they been aided by their parents to gain admission into the institution? And like you both did bring out, the system that enabled this whole scenario equally should be looked at. If, for want of time, if we had gone across to Calabar, we will see where exam was cancelled because a student alleged that Holy Spirit did tell her that there was leaked papers and all that, and this begins to bear touchlight onto our education system that needs to be overhauled as we continue to estray over time. But be that as it may, this is all that we can take for now on these other news stories. Good hope.
All right, thank you very much. We are going just straight to sports, what is happening in the world of sports. And because of time, I can give you today's fixtures. Yesterday, the match happened. Matches happened, of course. Barcelona played their second leg of the game against Atletico Madrid, where they won 3-0. They won Atletico Madrid at home. And it could have been a 4-4 draw, but because of the whole thing, they were not able to win. Now, just looking through the newspaper headline, you will see United fans rate Carrick highly after fine start at Old Trafford. Carrick, who has 7 games, just has drawn 1. He won 6 and has drawn 1. I think that's a fine start. You see, just now pumping one to Osimhen to replace Kane at Bayern, and Liverpool is Diamondo Swoop. But let's go to the fixtures we have today because of how it's going to be. Fixtures that we have today are in the English Premier League. Just at the side of the newspaper, we have I think I support anybody who wins. Brighton versus Arsenal. Brighton would always try to brighten Arsenal's day in the night. We'll see what it is. Fulham versus West Ham are going to clash tonight. And Manchester City versus Nottingham Forest. I don't know where Manchester City is going to in the Forest. We're going to see what it is. Then Newcastle versus Manchester United. This is a tough match. I think this is one of the toughest matches we'll have. This match and Chelsea's match are the toughest matches we're going to have last time, because each team, especially Villa, Chelsea and Manchester United, they are around each other. So everyone is trying to escape that back from top 4 zone or back to top 4 zone. Going down to Bundesliga, we have Hamburger SV versus Bayer Leverkusen. And then we have in La Liga, Vallecano and Oviedo. Here in Copa del Rey we have Sociedad versus Atletico Bilbao. Then Copa Italia we have Lazio versus Atlanta. Then in the MPFL we have Rivers United playing against El Canemi Warriors. Now let's look at just the headlines. Just one headline that is very important. We're looking at the condition of the world and what is happening there. Ronaldo leaves Saudi amid Middle East tensions. Just yesterday in the news, it has been, it's the day 4 now, but clubs around Saudi areas, clubs around the Middle East have suspended their matches because of the tensions between Iran, US and Israel. So they have suspended their match and they just want to keep it on a low right now because of how it is going. So Ronaldo in that thing had left Saudi amid Middle East tensions. Then just in 1 minute, Onuachu scores 20th goal of the season. Onuachu, our very own Nigeria Super Eagles striker, has scored his 20th goal for the season. And that is all we have in the world of sports here on Sora and Aneke TV. And also thank you for watching. Thank you for waking up with us this morning. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being there to see and to hear from the best of the best. I am Guru Chukuma, and I will be here again same time, same station tomorrow.
All right, Mr. Rice will say thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Mr. Misobudo, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm Uche Osai. You're not here to be average. Be unique. Keep watching Aneke TV to come your way same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.
morning headlines before you step out, midday updates while you work, evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
As Nigeria prepares for the 2027 general elections, many are asking a question that resonates across the nation. Will this election finally be different from those that came before it? From disputes over results to delayed outcomes, past polls have often left citizens frustrated. But for 2027, hope is rising and citizens are playing a central role in shaping the outcome. Across the country, voter registration is surging. Millions of Nigerians, particularly first-time voters and young citizens, are taking active steps to ensure their voices are heard. Surveys show that more than 70% of Nigerians intend to vote in 2027, signaling strong public interest despite concerns about security and electoral fairness. INEC has introduced measures to strengthen the credibility of the elections, including continuous voter registration and biometric verification of voters. These efforts aim to expand and secure the electoral register, ensuring that every eligible citizen can participate. But election credibility relies not just on technology, it depends on active citizen engagement. Community groups, youth organizations, and advocacy networks are educating voters about their rights, the mechanics of voting, and how to report irregularities. These initiatives aim to empower citizens to safeguard the integrity of the process. Civil society coalitions are also lobbying lawmakers to adopt key reforms, including real-time electronic transmission of results. Advocates argue that such measures are crucial to building trust and reducing disputes over outcomes. Citizens are making their voices heard, demanding transparency and accountability from political institutions. Beyond advocacy, ordinary Nigerians are stepping up as watchdogs, monitoring registration and mobilizing participation, from educating communities to ensuring fair access to polling units. The public is taking responsibility for strengthening democracy. Their actions reflect a growing belief that democracy is more than casting a ballot. It is active engagement in shaping governance and holding leaders accountable. The 2027 election may ultimately be defined not only by reforms, technology, or institutional measures, but by the active involvement of citizens themselves. From voter education to advocacy campaigns, Nigerians are asserting their role as custodians of democracy, determined to ensure that every vote counts and the will of the people is respected. As the countdown of February 2027 continues, it is clear that citizens are at the heart of Nigeria's democratic future. Their engagement, vigilance, and determination will help shape whether this election marks a true turning point for the nation. Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Anambra State, located in southeastern Nigeria, is one of the nation's most dynamic and enterprising regions. Created in 1976, it takes its name from the Anambra River, a tributary of the Niger. Its land is steeped in history, from the ancient Nri kingdom, the cradle of Igbo civilization and spiritual authority, to the bustling commercial rise of Onitsha, one of West Africa's busiest trading cities. Every inch of its soil seems to breathe heritage, resilience, and the quiet power of innovation that defines the Igbo spirit. Anambra's people are known for their industrious drive, intellectual prowess, and unyielding creativity. Across Nigeria and beyond, they stand tall as business leaders, scholars, inventors, and professionals whose influence reaches every corner of society. From the sprawling market of Onitsha to the humming industrial machines in Nnewi, fondly called the Japan of Africa, the state exemplifies the
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless. It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose ox is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last block.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Anambra State, located in southeastern Nigeria, is one of the nation's most dynamic and enterprising regions. Created in 1976, it takes its name from the Anambra River, a tributary of the Niger. Its land is steeped in history, from the ancient Nri kingdom, the cradle of Igbo civilization and spiritual authority, to the bustling commercial rise of Onitsha, one of West Africa's busiest trading cities. Every inch of its soil seems to breathe heritage, resilience, and the quiet power of innovation that defines the Igbo spirit. Anambra's people are known for their industrious drive, intellectual prowess, and unyielding creativity. Across Nigeria and beyond, they stand tall as business leaders, scholars, inventors, and professionals whose influence reaches every corner of society. From the sprawling market of Onitsha to the humming industrial machines in Nnewi, fondly called the Japan of Africa, the state exemplifies the fusion of tradition and modern enterprise. In Awka, the capital, new technology hubs and startups are springing up, harnessing the energy of a generation determined to build a future powered by knowledge and innovation. The state's endowments are immense. Anambra boasts fertile soils that yield abundant harvest of yam, rice, cassava, and vegetables, feeding not just its people but the wider region. Sources: crude oil, natural gas, kaolin, and limestone, waiting to be fully harnessed. With a well-educated populace and a vibrant entrepreneurial culture, the state's economy is driven by small and medium-scale industries that continue to expand Nigeria's manufacturing frontiers. Culturally, Anambra is the heartbeat of Igbo identity. Age-long traditions and legendary figures like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chinua Achebe, and Dora Akunyili, whose contributions have left indelible marks on Nigeria and the world. Its towns and villages are known for strong community bonds and progressive values that inspire excellence in every field. Anambra's potential lies not only in its natural and human resources, but in the unbreakable spirit of its people, a people who see every challenge as a call to greatness. With expanding infrastructure, digital transformation, and a thriving creative scene, the state stands poised to lead Nigeria into a new era of prosperity. It is a land where heritage meets ambition, where history fuels innovation, and where the light of progress never dims.
Nigeria prepares for the 2027 general elections, many are asking a question that resonates across the nation. Will this election finally be different from those that came before it? From disputes over results to delayed outcomes, past polls have often left citizens frustrated. But for 2027, hope is rising, and citizens are playing a central role in shaping the outcome. Across the country, voter registration is surging. Millions of Nigerians, particularly first-time voters and young citizens, are taking active steps to ensure their voices are heard. Surveys show that more than 70% of Nigerians intend to vote in 2027, signaling strong public interest despite concerns about security and electoral fairness. Aneke has introduced measures to strengthen the credibility of the elections, including continuous voter registration and biometric verification of voters. These efforts aim to expand and secure the electoral register, ensuring that every eligible citizen can participate. But election credibility relies not just on technology, it depends on active citizen engagement. Community groups, youth organizations, and advocacy networks are educating voters about their rights, the mechanics of voting, and how to report irregularities. These initiatives aim to empower citizens to safeguard the integrity of the process. Civil society coalition
us on the Insights. Remember, the Insight is that program where we bring to you habits of issues, policies, policies helping to shape our nation. And tonight on the Insight, we look at Nigerian health sector, healing the healer. We aren't just looking at the hospitals, we are looking at the people holding them together. Nigeria's health sector is often described as ailing, but the real tragedy is the very hands meant to cure us. These hands are trembling from exhaustion,